seems necessary to talk about the spiritual world a little bit. And the spiritual world exists as truth. What is true constitutes what is the spiritual world. So when you're talking about the spiritual world, you're talking about what is true. What is the basis of life, the basis of law, the basis of the universe, basically. What is important about that for you is that you need to understand exactly what is true about you, or you must not enter into the spiritual world. And you do that by entering truth as a passage that leads or ascends as you become more and more pure in the truth that you actually inhabit, or that is your identity. So what you need to know is that everything about you must be chosen as true, or you're going to end up in a crisis. Or more correctly, as far as I am concerned, my first element of that was that after a search of several years of trying to understand what it is and so on, I was invited, so to speak, to give it a try, you might say. And an image appeared in the sky, which I did not trust and would have refused except for one single thing. Just before I was completely discarded as a lie, it asked me I had false teeth, and I did not know whether or not that was actually allowed, because it is a body. Is the body your temple? Is it something? Is it yours, or is it God's, or who actually belongs a life that lives as you? So I didn't know, and that led to a crisis of failure, because I didn't know one single thing that was important to me. If it isn't important, it doesn't matter. But if it is important, you must make a decision, or you must not go into a spiritual world or a spiritual transition beyond self, which means to leave time behind, to inhabit something more. Anyway, the lesson is that as far as truth goes, as far as your body goes, you own your body. It doesn't matter what has happened to it. It doesn't matter what you've used it for. It is your body. It is yours alone. No one else has a right to make any decision based upon your life. It is your body. You own it. And anyone who tries to tell you different is lying. It is your body. And it doesn't matter if you're married or not. It is your body. It is not theirs. But of course, the whole purpose of marriage is to share things. And if you care about someone, and if you respect someone, if you both respect each other, then you will, share your body and things like that. So, that's part of life, that's part of living, that's part of loving, if you have attained the level of respect that allows it to be true. If you don't respect each other, you have no relationship, so it doesn't matter. But back to the spiritual world, you cannot enter there with anything less than truth. And the entire passage from time into the spiritual world is based upon the realities or the consequences of what humanity has dissolved and accepted as their version of truth. And so the point between time and the spiritual world is to remove what is a lie in you. You don't get to take what is a lie into the spiritual world. You cannot. It will not survive. It's going to be removed. That's how it is. So there's no point in complaining. You have to accept, you have to understand, you have to decide what is true for you. Everything. You have to complete the journey as best you can, given the time that you are allowed. And of course, there's mercy for babies and things that don't make it. And I don't know how that works. It's certainly not up to me. But nonetheless, for you, or for people who you live to adulthood in particular, we have to decide what is true for us. We have to decide everything that is true for us. You don't get to pick or choose, or what is true, and if you have doubts, that is a real big problem for you. You're going to encounter a world that removes what is not true for you. And of course, even if it is true, if you don't accept it as true, it's going to be dissolved into misery. And people who are called schizophrenic are the people who fail to escape the consequences of entering into a spiritual world that with lies. And if they can escape the lies and determine what is true, they will come back to life and be okay. And if they cannot escape the lies that they accepted, they will not. So it's very important that you understand there's a cost to going beyond time. There's a cost to going beyond self. There's a cost to asking to be a participant in the spiritual world. It is an ascent. Beyond time is an ascent. You have to discard a want. You have to discard the things that people say to you. You have to discard, all the things that humanity is, does, and was, and so on. You have to accept the reality that you need to understand what is true. Only what is true is important. But you have to understand everything about what is true in you. And you have to make that decision, and you have to accept the foundation that is your truth. If you don't build a foundation upon which you can start another life, another portion of life, you don't get to live that life. You have to have the foundation in place before you can go on. So it is an ascent. And you have to, this is ascent into truth, and of course everything that is true, and you have to accept the evidence of our reality to prove what is true. You cannot imagine it, you cannot fantasize about it, you cannot delude yourself as what universities do. It's 90% of what they are is fantasy and delusion and imagination. That's all you need, or just one thing, that's all you need, but that is not true at all. You have to accept that truth is reality, and you have to accept that the reality is what you build upon, and then what you build upon determines how far you can go into the purity of any truth. So you have to decide that. You have to create that for yourself. And if you don't create that, you get to be left behind. You get to be pushed to the side. There are people who vanish. There are people who end up in the spiritual world and cannot escape it because they never made any decision. They never created any truth that mattered, and the consequence of that is that they cannot go on. So don't do that, and you cannot. If you don't let anyone in the spiritual world cling on to you, it's not your job to save them. They were saved. They had their chance. And they made their choice. And you cannot save them without sacrificing your own life. And if you sacrifice your own life, you lose your life. That's kind of what that means. If you sacrifice your life, you lose your life. If you sacrifice your love, you lose your love. If you give your love to someone else, you lose your love because they have it now. You gave it to them. So the end result of that is that if you don't find someone to share love with you, which will grow love and multiply it into something even more, on the other side of that, you give it to someone who just takes it away from you, then you will be left without. So it's very, very critical that you accept that truth is a participant in your life, and that truth is a very important part of your life. And you must understand what is and is not true in order to live and to survive and to be alive beyond time. So make a decision. to understand what truth is as best you can, because we cannot, I cannot tell you exactly what truth is, because it is your truth that we're very, very much discussing here. It is your own truth, your own identity. You get to choose, because every single one of us is a little bit different, and every single one of us thereby gets to create something that is a little bit different of their own. You don't get to copy somebody else. You don't get to invade their life. You don't get to take from them what they have. You must choose for yourself. So and that's of course based upon the realities of your living. People who have everything given to them, it seems like they have a charmed life, make very few decisions generally, because they don't want to or they're not invested in the realities of what our world is. They're not invested. They're not required to make decisions that are hard. They have the easy way out, and it is the easy way that that commonly destroys life. It is too easy. It's usually a trap. Simple as that, and you end up with the cost of what you chose. So take the hard way out instead, or more correctly, take the true way out instead. Let truth decide, because truth will create the destiny of your life. It will create the destiny of your eternity. Whereas if you try to get involved and you say, I will choose, I want, I don't want, I want, that becomes a fate. In other words, you chose, and the consequence of your choice is a fate that that doesn't necessarily have truth in it. You wanted what you wanted, and of course that you wanted, generally I want the easy thing, I want the rich thing, I want, which means to make other people slaves. That's what rich means. It doesn't mean that you're better or worse or whatever it is. It just means that you want slaves. Somebody else to do your work, somebody else to do your bidding, somebody else to listen to you, and all that. So the end result is that make a